Hi everyone, welcome back. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Philip. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is refuse to accept being diminished by someone who isn't ready to claim you. I'd been dating Olivia for about 6 weeks when everything fell apart at a wedding I should never have brought her to. 6 weeks isn't a long time in the grand scheme of relationships, but it had been long enough for me to develop real feelings. Long enough to believe we were building toward something meaningful. We'd met through a mutual acquaintance at a corporate dinner. She was 25, worked for a boutique agency, and had this quiet confidence that drew me in immediately. I was working for a management firm. We'd exchanged numbers at night, started texting, and went on our first date a week later. After a couple of dates, we asked her to be my girlfriend since she was single, and she accepted. The first few weeks were good. She was more reserved than I was used to, slower to open up, but I never saw that as a big deal. We'd see each other twice a week, sometimes 3 times, because of our busy schedules. I was openly affectionate from the beginning. That's how I am in relationships: expressive, communicative, and comfortable in showing feelings. I'd already told my close friends about her, posted a photo of us together on Instagram after our 3rd date, and made it clear through my actions that I was interested in something serious. Olivia was different. She acted more cautiously. She'd accept my affection but rarely initiate it. Would seem pleased when I'd reach for her hand or put my arm around her, but wouldn't do the same first. Talked about her life and her work, but kept certain parts private. I interpreted this as her being shy or naturally private. Some people take longer to open up emotionally. I respected that and thought giving her time would help her become more comfortable. What I didn't realize, what I was too optimistic or naive to see, was that she was still figuring out how she felt about me, whether she wanted to be in a relationship at all, whether she was ready to be seen as taken. About 5 weeks in, I got invited to the wedding of my college friend's sister. This friend of mine and I had been close for years. His younger sister was getting married in a suburb outside Boston. It was a big wedding with a formal reception, the whole traditional setup. My friend had told me to bring a date. I immediately thought of Olivia. Seemed like a natural next step. Going to a significant event together, meeting some of my friends, spending a full evening as a couple outside our usual date routine. I asked her casually one evening after dinner at my apartment. Explained it was my friend's sister's wedding, that it would be fun, and that I'd love for her to come as my date. Her reaction surprised me. She hesitated, commented on how it was my friend's wedding, whether it would be weird for her to attend since she didn't know anyone there. I brushed off her concerns, told her it would be fun, that weddings were great first opportunities to meet friend groups, and that I wanted to show her off a little. Kept the tone light and encouraging. She eventually agreed, though I noticed the agreement came with a reluctance I didn't fully understand. Chalked it up to normal nervousness about meeting new people. The wedding was on a Saturday. That day had beautiful weather. The ceremony was at a historic church, and the reception was at an elegant venue with gardens and a ballroom. I picked Olivia up from her apartment. She looked beautiful, wearing a floral dress, hair done, makeup carefully applied. But she was noticeably quiet and slightly tense during the drive. I tried making conversation, asking if she was nervous about the wedding. She said she was fine, just a little tired from a busy work week. We arrived at the church and found seats toward the back. The ceremony was traditional and sweet. My friend and his family were in the front rows. I pointed them out to Olivia, told her a bit about my friend and his sister, who was getting married. She nodded along, but seemed distracted. Kept looking around the church like she was scanning for something or someone. After the ceremony, we moved to the reception venue, cocktail hour in the gardens, then dinner and dancing inside. I was looking forward to introducing Olivia to my friend and some other college friends. But as we entered the garden area, Olivia's demeanor changed completely. She went from reserved but present to actively withdrawn. I noticed immediately. Asked if she was okay. She said she was fine, just warm, just adjusting to being around so many strangers. We got drinks and started mingling. I introduced her to a few of my friends she hadn't met. She was polite but minimal in her responses. Smiled when appropriate, but volunteered little. I started feeling self-conscious and wondering if bringing her had been a mistake, if she was genuinely uncomfortable or regretting coming. Then, about 20 minutes into cocktail hour, I saw her freeze mid-conversation as an older woman started walking toward us. She was probably in her 50s, well-dressed, and looked friendly. I later learned that this older woman was Olivia's mother, as she called out Olivia's name with apparent familiarity when she arrived. Olivia smiled as she greeted her mother. Her mom was warm and chatty. Asked what Olivia was doing there. Said she hadn't known Olivia would be attending. Then she turned to me with friendly curiosity. Asked Olivia if she was with me, who I was. You could see the expectation in Olivia's mother's face to hear that I was Olivia's man, but without missing a beat or any hesitation, Olivia told her mom that I was just a friend. That we'd come together as friends. Nothing more than that. My world paused almost immediately. I felt like being punched in the chest in front of a crowd. Olivia's mom nodded politely to acknowledge me and was about to continue chatting with Olivia when I told her that, actually, I was Olivia's ex. That we weren't together anymore. The expression on Olivia's mother's face shifted from friendly curiosity to confusion and concern. She looked between Olivia and me, trying to reconcile what I just said with the fact that we looked like a couple. Olivia's face went pale. Her eyes widened in shock and something like panic. I nodded politely at Olivia's mother, excused myself by saying I needed to find my friend, then walked away before anyone could respond or ask further questions. I moved through the venue toward the bar, heart pounding, face hot with anger and humiliation. I didn't look back to see Olivia's reaction. Didn't want to know what she was saying to her mother to explain what had just happened. I found my friend near the entrance to the reception hall. Congratulated him on his sister's wedding. Made small talk about the ceremony. Acted like everything was fine. I stayed at the wedding for another 30 minutes before leaving immediately. I saw Olivia from a distance as I left the venue, but didn't care. I got in my car and drove back to my place. The whole drive, I replayed the moment in my head. The casual way Olivia had said just a friend. How easily the lie had come to her. How little hesitation she'd shown in erasing me from her life in front of her mother. And I finally understood what I'd been missing for 6 weeks. Olivia had never really seen me as her boyfriend. Had been going along with dating because it was pleasant and convenient, but hadn't actually committed emotionally. The reservation I'd interpreted as shyness was actually ambivalence. The caution I'd seen as taking things slow was actually keeping me at arm's length. She'd been testing the waters, seeing if she could develop real feelings, and apparently had decided, or at least not decided strongly enough, that she couldn't or wouldn't claim me publicly. By the time I got home, my phone had multiple missed calls and texts from Olivia. The first few were sent while I was still driving, asking where I'd gone, saying we needed to talk, demanding to know why I'd said what I said to her mother. Then she sent an accusatory message when she saw I wasn't replying. She was angry. Said I'd embarrassed her in front of her family, asking what had gotten into me and accusing me of making a scene and humiliating her publicly. I stared at the message for a long time. Felt this wave of exhausted disbelief. She was angry at me for humiliating her, after she'd just publicly denied we were together. The lack of self-awareness was almost impressive. My first instinct was to call her and explain that I'd been hurt and reacted poorly, to smooth things over and try to salvage whatever we'd had. But something in me had fundamentally shifted. A core certainty that this person wasn't right for me, that this relationship had been one-sided from the beginning. So I did something I'd never done before in any previous relationship. I didn't respond. I just set my phone down, made dinner, watched TV, went to bed, let her message sit there unanswered while I processed everything. Hours after the first angry message, she sent another, asking if I was ignoring her. Pointed out that she could see I'd read her messages. Still, I didn't respond when I read it. Instead, I turned on Do Not Disturb and went to sleep. By morning, there were several more messages. The tone had shifted from angry to manipulative. She sent messages designed to make me feel guilty about how confused she was, how she didn't understand why I was being so cold, how she thought we were better than this kind of communication breakdown. Classic emotional manipulation, making my boundaries about her feelings and framing my silence as cruelty rather than self-protection. I read through all of them while drinking my morning coffee, felt nothing except tired resignation. Then came the long apology text, sent mid-morning while I was at work. She explained that she'd panicked when she saw her mother, that she hadn't wanted to field awkward questions about a new boyfriend so soon, that her family was traditional and would make a big deal about any relationship, said she hadn't meant to deny me, that it had just slipped out in the moment, that she understood why I was upset, but I had to see it from her perspective. The apology was classic non-apology, explaining why she'd done what she did as if understanding her reasoning would make it acceptable, asking me to empathize with her position without actually acknowledging that what she'd done was hurtful and wrong. I read it twice. Then, finally, I responded. I kept it simple by telling her she hadn't made a mistake, that she'd shown me exactly what I'd been refusing to see for 6 weeks, that she'd never really seen me as her boyfriend. She'd been keeping me at a distance the entire time we'd been dating. I added that it was fine. People are allowed to be uncertain about relationships, allowed to take things slow, allowed not to be ready. But I was allowed to want more than someone unsure about me, allowed to want someone willing to claim me publicly without hesitation. I told her I now saw her as my ex, that whatever relationship we'd had was over, and I wish her well. Then I blocked her number, blocked her on social media, removed her from my life completely, not out of spite or revenge, just out of recognition that this person couldn't give me what I needed, and I couldn't continue trying to convince her to. Over the following days, I felt some sadness about the ending, but more relief that I wouldn't be wasting more time with someone who wasn't all in. A mutual friend apparently ran into Olivia a few weeks later, mentioned it to me casually, said Olivia had asked about me, had said she regretted how things ended, that she'd made a mistake. I didn't respond to that information. I didn't reach out or give her an opening to restart communication. Because the issue wasn't that she'd made a mistake in the moment. The problem was what that mistake revealed about how she saw me and our relationship. Looking back now, several months later, I understand everything more clearly. I learned that 6 weeks is long enough to know whether you're willing to publicly acknowledge someone you're dating. It's not about love or serious commitment at that stage. It's about basic respect and willingness to claim the person you're spending time with. I learned that someone's hesitation to acknowledge you isn't about their privacy, caution, or family dynamics. It's about their uncertainty about you. And you can't convince someone to be sure about you through patience or understanding. I learned that how someone introduces you to others reveals how they actually see you, regardless of what they say in private. Olivia could tell me all day that she cared about me and enjoyed our time together. But when faced with her family, she'd instinctively deny we were together. That was how she saw our relationship. I learned that people-pleasing and conflict avoidance in relationships lead to accepting less than you deserve. My instinct to smooth things over, to empathize with her perspective, to apologize for my reaction, all of that would have led me to accept her framing of events and continue in a relationship where I wasn't valued. I learned that sometimes the most self-respecting response to being diminished is to end the relationship immediately. No discussion, no trying to understand, no chances. Just a clean ending. Most importantly, I learned that silence is a complete sentence. When Olivia tried to manipulate me back into engagement through her texts, my silence communicated everything that needed to be said. I didn't owe her explanations, arguments, or opportunities to talk me out of my boundaries. Some people think I overreacted, that introducing me as a friend after only 6 weeks wasn't a big deal, that I should have talked to her about it, given her a chance to explain, and tried to work through the miscommunication. But those people missed the point. It wasn't about the timeline or the specific words she used. It was about the instinct she revealed. When faced with a simple question about who I was, her instinct had been to hide our relationship, to protect herself from potential awkwardness with family connections, at the cost of acknowledging me. That instinct told me everything about her priorities, about whether she was willing to be uncomfortable for my sake, about whether she valued our relationship enough to claim it publicly. And the answer was clear. She wasn't, and she didn't. Calling myself her ex in front of her mother had been impulsive. I won't pretend it was calculated or mature. It was a reaction born from humiliation and disappointment. But it had also been honest. In that moment, I decided the relationship was over. So I wasn't her boyfriend anymore. I was her ex. Making that declaration publicly, in front of the person she'd just lied to, had been my way of taking back the power in the situation, of refusing to let her control the narrative, of asserting my own dignity after she tried to erase me. Some might call that petty or vindictive. I call it self-respect, because the alternative would have been standing there silently while she lied about who I was, accepting her erasure without protest. Then later, having some private conversation where she explained and justified, and I forgave, and we continued in a relationship where she'd shown me exactly how little she valued me. That path would have led to more of the same. More reservations, more hesitation, more being kept at arm's length while I tried to prove I was worth claiming. I chose the other path. The one where I immediately honored my own worth by ending things with someone who wouldn't. Olivia taught me to recognize the difference between someone who's uncertain and someone who's committed, between someone keeping options open and someone choosing you clearly. And she taught me to honor myself enough to walk away immediately when someone shows me I'm not what they want. Olivia was embarrassed by what I said in front of her family connection. But she'd embarrassed me first by denying our relationship, by treating me like someone she needed to hide. The difference is I'd done nothing to deserve her treatment, while she'd earned mine through her own choices. She wanted someone who'd accept being hidden when convenient, who'd understand and forgive and continue being uncertain about whether they were valued. I wanted someone who'd claim me proudly regardless of who was watching. We wanted incompatible things. So the relationship ended. Quickly, definitively, without the drawn-out pain of trying to force compatibility where it didn't exist. And I'm grateful for the clarity that moment at the wedding provided, because it saved me from wasting more time with someone who saw me as optional rather than essential. Saved me from the slow erosion of self-respect that comes from accepting less than you deserve because you're trying to be understanding. Saved me from becoming someone who makes excuses for being hidden because the alternative is being alone. I'd rather be alone than be someone's secret. Rather be single than be with someone uncertain about me. Rather end things after 6 weeks than invest years in someone who won't publicly claim me. The right person won't make you question whether they're proud to be with you. Won't hesitate when someone asks who you are. Won't need explanations or discussions about why it hurt when they erased you in public. The right person will claim you immediately and proudly. And I'm worth waiting for rather than settling for someone who sees me as negotiable. That's the lesson Olivia taught me. Not the one she intended, but the one I needed. And I'm grateful for it, even though the learning was painful. Because now I know exactly what I deserve, and exactly what I won't accept. And that is worth every uncomfortable moment of that wedding reception.